about systems of currency, uh, exchange rate system used in the world. And next is currency crisis. Practices: choosing exchange rate system. Which one to choose? Fixed or floating? Let's say free floating. There's managed floating. Crawling peg. Next, currency manipulation. You devalue your currency to make your products cheaper. And currency war. Everyone is devaluing their currencies to make exports cheaper. Capital controls. This is, to tackle the situation of a current account deficit. Increasing credibility of fixed exchange rates. So practices: in choosing an exchange rate system, a nation must decide whether to allow its currency to be determined by market forces, which is floating rate, or be fixed or pegged against some standard of value. Floating exchange rate system, nation must decide whether currency, the floating one, there are two: floating and fixed. Fixed and floating. For floating now, nation must decide whether currency should be float independently, float in unison with other currencies, or crawl according to a predetermined formula. Must decide that. That depends on the economic situation of the country, mainly inflation, to avoid instability in the economy because of inflation. Okay. Another one is pegged exchange rate system. Fixed against some standard of value, nation must decide whether to anchor to a single currency or a basket of currency or gold. Members of the IMF, exchange rates should not be manipulated, which is to prevent effective balance of payment adjustment. Should not be manipulated. Well, why they manipulated? To avoid that, if that adjustments, and to gain unfair competitive advantage over other member nations. Export prices cheaper than other countries' export prices. That's unfair because of they manipulate the currency, the exchange rate. The member of the IMF cannot and should not manipulate currencies. Members should act to counter short-term disorderly conditions in the exchange market, to maintain stability in the exchange rate system, because very important to maintain stability and orderly, to make sure investment flows, and also especially I should mention trade flows unaffected, because if there is a volatility in exchange rate volatility will affect negatively on the flows of trade, international trade. Export and import of goods will be negatively impacted by the volatility in exchange rate. people, I mean, exporters are not sure they're getting the same amount that they should get with the volatility in the exchange rate. That's why very important is, you know, stability in the exchange rate. When markets, when members intervene in the exchange rate, when members intervene in the exchange market, they must take into account the interests of other member nations, member countries. So these practices in 2015, hard packs, percentage of IMF members. We're talking here about 188 member countries of the IMF. Hard packs is only about 12%, 12.6% of total member. 12.6 hard packs, which is no separate legal tender or currency board. Soft packs, which is can be comfortable pack, fixed exchange rate, sizable arrangement, crawling pack, crawling like arrangement, pack exchange rate within horizontal bands. All this 23, 34, 34.5, 34.5, 35 point, 36, 36.1, 46.6, 47.1 total. Whereas this floating 19.4, 30% of all members using the system of floating exchange rate. 30% of the members. Within that 30% floating, only 15.7% free floating. Free floating completely based on supply and demand in the exchange market, in the currency markets. Only 15.7% free floating from that 30% floating, meaning that one second, I gotta do this before I stop my class with you all, just quickly, okay? Meaning that bear with me just maybe 3 minutes. Oh, not this one. Ooh. Yeah. Anyone that graduates from my class must not embarrass herself or himself when you become a leader of the nation or leader of captain of industry. You come on national TV, you're talking on national TV. It's mean. That's mean. You are making embarrassment for yourself. That's mean. It's mean. No. That means. It means. Correct one. Wrong. Embarrassing. It's mean. It's mean that we must come together and become united. That's mean we must do more program. You from the Ministry of Unification. That's mean. It's mean. How embarrassing you are. You embarrass yourself. You embarrass your ministry. You embarrass the whole UKM. You are alumni of UKM. That's mean. It's mean. No, it means. That means. Why? Because it or that function just like a person. Ali takes the book. Ali takes one person, singular. Ali and David, two person, plural, take the book. Ali and David. past tense, took the book. Or present tense, Ali and David takes the delivery every day. Take, plural. Ali and David take the delivery every day. Plural, singular, S. Ali takes the book. Ali takes the book. So, it or that function just like a person. Just like a person. Ali takes, it takes 10 hours. That takes all of us. That takes 10 hours. That takes, it takes. So, that's why Ali takes, I can change this. Ali means, but that's not good. Because Ali meant to say past tense. So, not good example. So, Ali takes the book. So, function just like that. It means, that means, it mean, no, wrong. That mean, wrong. Because no S. Wrong grammar. It, that is meaning, strange. Very awkward. Pelik. That is meaning, how you talk. How do you talk that way? That is meaning, awkward. It's mean, that's mean. This is embarrassing. On national TV, that's mean, that's mean, that's mean. This mean, is mean, is mean. Embarrassing. It's, that's meaning strange. The same thing is same as above. Just you shorten that. It's, that is. It is mean. That is mean. Correct. But different meaning. Other meaning. Bad. Oh, you're so bad. You know. That you are so mean. The way you speak to your parents. You yell at your parents. You are so mean. Jahat. Bad. So this is correct grammar. It is so mean for you to speak that way to your teacher. Show respect to your teacher. That's so mean. That's so bad. So correct the grammar. So, but the meaning is different thing. Not that the meaning we're talking about. That's mean. That's mean. That's mean. So okay. So in conclusion, it's mean. That's mean. Embarrassing yourself and your institution and your university that you graduate. Especially yourself. Look at this professor on national TV. Look at this minister. That's mean, that's mean, that's mean. That minister, I'm just making example, okay? No, I'm not referring to anyone. That minister is embarrassing the nation. He speaks in Davos, Switzerland. No, I'm not referring, just making a story, okay? That's mean, you know. So, the right one is, it means. That means. Okay, finish. Okay. Clear? Another one. Yeah, I remember. Quickly. I tested my student in the class. Can you say this? I don't want to get married until my career established. All of them say, I will not get married until my career. Until my career established. Oh, this one. Career. This equals airplane. Or ships or shipping company. You're saying You will not get married until your airplane company established. If your name is Shukri, if your name is Lisa, suppose the company of the of airline is Lisa, I will not get married until my Lisa, the airplane company established. I'll not. So you should be saying this by the word of k, 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 k. This is not my notebook because I cannot type Hangul. If it is my notebook, I can type Hangul. I don't know. No input. Hangul. K. Career. So, all of my students in class, I will not get married until my career. Career. Care. Career. This is K. Until my career established. Oh, are you saying until your airplanes companies, you have an airplane company or you have a shipping company established? It means that you're not gonna get married. Only one in 1 million, in 30 million people of Malaysia, only one this Asia boss of Asia. What? Give me the name. I forgot. What's the name of the boss of Asia? Fernandez. Tony Fernandez. In all 30 million people of Malaysia, only one Tony Fernandez. So, are you saying that you're not gonna get married until you have a plane company, just like Tony Fernandez established? Because you're saying, I'm not gonna get married until my career. You should be saying, until my career. Career. Yes. Career, airplane. Career. Shorten. Career, not carrier. Okay, done. Am I show me that? Yes. Now shall go back to what I so okay. It means that most of the member countries of United Nations, IMF, it means that most are using non-floating. 70%. Only 30% using the floating. I get water. It means, that means, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So 30%, 70% non-floating. What are the characteristics suitable for the type of exchange rate system? So this table summarizes for us the size and openness of the economy, each trade is a larger share of national output. In the case of Malaysia, trade is larger, very large part of GDP. In fact, in the year 2000s, or late 1990s and the early 2000s, import and export total, the amount, the dollar value amount of import and export total, more than 100% of GDP of Malaysia. It means that Malaysia, a small open economy, which is highly dependent on the external sector. When I say external sector, depending on international trade and also investment, external sector. In this case, we're talking about international trade, export and imports. Small open economy, then the cost of currency fluctuation can be high. You cannot have high fluctuations in currency of ringgit. Become very costly to the economy for Malaysia. A small open economy. What is open economy? Heavily involved or dependent on exports and also import. International trade, open economy. This is just a small open economies like Malaysia may be best served by fixed exchange rate. Maybe, but in reality, Bank Negara Malaysia Central Bank using managed floating by having a target and also currency basket and all this calculation, not fixed exchange rate in reality. But fixed exchange rate maybe for Malaysia, small open economy, maybe served better by fixed exchange rate. But fixed exchange rate has another problem: exposure to speculation by speculators. Okay. If inflation rate is higher than its trading partner, its exchange rate needs to be flexible to prevent its goods from becoming uncompetitive in the world market. See, 5% left. Forgot to turn on the battery for charging the So this human weakness, alhamdulillah, I managed to turn on. So exchange rate needs to be flexible. If you have higher inflation, you cannot have a fixed, because flexibility can make adjustment for prices and will prevent inflation from going up. So needs flexible to be flexible to prevent its goods from becoming uncompetitive in the world markets. If inflation is modest, not high, a fixed rate is less troublesome. Can use fixed rate if low inflation. High inflation must be flexible. How flexible we study. Labor market flexibility, the more rigid the wages are, wages cannot change because contract, yearly contract, the greater the need for flexible exchange rate to help the economy respond to the external shock. Degree of financial development in developing countries with immature financial markets, a free floating may not be sensible because a small number of foreign exchange operators or traders can cause big swing in the currency. So cannot very poor country, low, less developed country, in mature financial market, cannot have that free floating. Cannot. Credibility of policymakers. The weaker the reputation of the central bank that make good decision or not, the stronger the case for pegging the exchange rate to build confidence that inflation can be controlled. Capital mobility. The more open an economy to international capital movement, the more difficult it is to sustain a fixed rate. You cannot have fixed rate. You must have a floating system of exchange rate. Constraints of imposed by free capital flows. What are the constraints? Allowing free capital flows will constrain a country's choice of exchange rate system. Will constrain the country's ability to operate an independent monetary policy when you have free capital flows. Because there is a concept of impossible trinity. You can have two only. You cannot have all the three. Choose which one you want to be, where you want to be. Can have two only, not all the three. Like here, United States wants the independent monetary policy and free capital flows. And yet, independent monetary policy. So, it cannot fix its exchange rate. Cannot have this one. Hong Kong, of course, Hong Kong small, entity, wants really free capital flows and fixed exchange rate. Can have the two, but cannot have independent monetary policy. So Hong Kong must give up independent monetary policy so that they can have both free capital flows and fixed exchange rate. China, well, up to 2005, China. After 2005, China opens up in terms of capital flows, everything. So this is we're talking about before 2005. Precisely, the degree, more precisely, the degree of it. China want to have independent monetary policy, can, decide on its own the interest rate, money supply and so on, independent monetary policy, and fixed exchange rate. But China cannot have free capital flows, must, curb free capital flows. If not curb, that will affect stability of the currency and thus other macroeconomic indicators, including inflation. So the impossible trinity. You can have two only, cannot have all the three. So now, fixed exchange rate system. So now the choice, either fixed or independent monetary policy, fixed or floating. So fixed, we study fixed first. Used primarily by small developing nations with currency anchored to key currency. Key currency usually dollar, because widely traded on the world market. Dollar, yen, UK pound, not Papua New Guinea money, not Thai baht. All the major currencies only have demonstrated relatively stable values over time, while it is kept as a means of settlement. this is used. Most using US dollar as key currency. According to a single currency generally done by developing nations whose trade and financial resources are mainly with a single industrial country partner. US usually used by a country anchored to single currency. And some will anchor to SDR. At MIF, there's a special drawing rights based on how many your subscription to IMF, how much you contributing to IMF, you have more SDR. So basket of euro, yen, pound, dollar, SDR. Par value. So for fixed exchange rate, in order to maintain stability, in order to maintain trade balance, you must take care of the par value that must adjust whenever the currency changes. So par value and official exchange rate, in terms of gold or other key currencies, the official exchange rate can be determined by comparing par values of two currencies. So, and if you're using fixed exchange rate, we still are, okay, this topic, fixed exchange rate system, okay? You must have, that country must have exchange rate stabilization fund for intervention to buy and sell foreign currency in order to bring back to the official exchange rate. So the fundamental disequilibrium, long-term official exchange rate and the market exchange rate may diverge in the long term, which is reflecting changes in the fundamental economic condition like income, productivity, taste, preference, technology factors. Change in technology also, yes. That's why there needs to be either devaluation or revaluation. Devaluation when there is deficit. Famine deficit, you must devalue your currency. Why? Devalue your currency will make your export prices cheaper. You can export more than you can reduce trade deficit. When you have surplus, you must revalue your currency. So revalue the currency, your exports become more expensive. Your imports becomes cheaper. You import more, export less. So surplus reduced. So depreciation and appreciation, the actual impact on market exchange rate caused by a redefinition of par value. Changes in exchange rate, changes in the supply or demand of foreign exchange. So fixed exchange rate was a system or the system. Yeah, careful. A, many choice. D, one only. I could say the system used in the world at that time after the meeting of would-be winners of World War II in 1944 in the town of Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States. In 1944, just 1 year before 1945, World War II ended, they already met in New Hampshire to build a financial architecture for the world, financial system. So that's it. From Bretton Woods came two institutions, IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, And another one, IMF. IBRD exists until today because that IBRD has become World Bank. IBRD still exists today, a small unit within World Bank. So today, as a result of Bretton Woods, we have World Bank and IMF. So IMF takes care of the monetary aspect, financial system, IMF. So came up with fixed exchange rate system. So the fixed exchange rate system from Bretton Woods, a semi-fixed exchange rate system, adjustable peg exchange rate, currencies tied to each other. Nations could repeg its exchange rate via devaluation or revaluation policies, use fiscal and monetary policies first to correct balance and payment imbalances, and agree to defend existing par value, correct fundamental disequilibrium by repegging currencies up to 10% without permission from IMF. If more than 10%, must get permission from IMF. The par value set at that time in 1944 in the value of gold, which is at that time not in the slide, I remember, outright, $35 for each ounce of gold. For each ounce, not kilogram, ounce, 1 ounce of gold equal to 35 US dollar. And that is the price of gold to maintain the par value. It means that, it means that for every $35 of trade deficit, for simplicity, okay? If United States has $35 trade deficit in Malaysia, which is I'm making the story, okay? It means that United States own Malaysia, must pay, Malaysia 1 ounce of gold. Of course, this is my story only. No, Japan, okay? Japan or UK or other, maybe Germany, trade deficit with Japan, 1980s. Whatever later on, trade deficit with Germany and European countries. You can calculate, okay? How much dollar? Every $35 of deficit means 1 ounce of gold. You know the ounce? How many? 12. 16, yeah. 16 ounce, one pound. I forgot. For a long time, we have not used we use the no more imperial. So $35. Someone has calculator. If $35 equals 1 ounce, what about $1? No, $35 equals 1 ounce. $1 is 1 over 35. Yes. That's how you calculate. And you get the ounce. Okay. Market exchange rate were almost, but not complete. Almost fixed. Okay. Almost fixed. So we're talking about fixed exchange rate system under Bretton Woods, from Bretton Woods system. However, that lasted until 71 when President Nixon spoke about we, United States, have huge trade deficit. Not only trade deficit, fiscal deficit and trade deficit, twin deficit, huge. Nixon said, we can no longer defend our trade deficit with gold. Too much trade deficit. Something like that is there. Because every $35. Trade deficit means 1 ounce, not 35. The deficit billions. How many gold you must back? You must pay back. If other countries are demanding to pay, you must pay in gold. Cannot defend anymore. So that was 1971. By 1973, when first oil shock came in 73, completely no more. Stop. No more fixed exchange rate from the Bretton Woods system of fixed exchange rate. No more. Began to float. Some countries free floating, some countries manage floating, some countries do other way like pegging and so on. So don't get misunderstood. Do not misunderstand. The institutions from Bretton Woods, which is IMF and World Bank, exist until today, did not stop. Exist until today. World Bank and IMF. What stopped? No more existing. Finished in 1971 and completely in 73. What finished was the fixed exchange rate system of Bretton Woods. No more. But IMF until today, World Bank until today exists. Okay? Only the system of fixed exchange rate system of Bretton Woods finished in 71 and completely in 73. Okay? So, other problems. Currency devaluation indicated failure of domestic policy. It meant that way at that time. Currency revaluation unacceptable to exporters. They will get less in their own currency when exchange. Suppose now $5, 5 ringgit for each dollar. 5 ringgit I get. What if dollar increase in value? Appreciate. Dollar appreciate. When exchange to ringgit, that $1 dollar depreciate, ringgit Malaysia appreciate. Okay, I export $1. When I suppose, originally I should get 5 ringgit, but ringgit depreciate. Okay, so when I exchange back, ringgit appreciate, I get only $4 because ringgit appreciate. $4 I get. I should get $5, 5 ringgit. Now I'm getting 4 ringgit only because ringgit has increase in the value. So unacceptable to me as exporter. So repegging exchange rates only as a last resort. Difficult because adjustable peg rates. Because you don't want to repeg. Speculators had incentives to move out of weakening currency. Another problem. So, problem with fixed exchange rate, speculators will leave that currency and sell it. And sell, your currency will fall, dropping. So, operation for finish. Now, floating exchange rate. Finish. Fixed rate, floating. Currency prices established daily in foreign market exchange market without restriction imposed by government policy. Agreement exchange rate, demand for and supply of home currency determined by supply and demand. Changes in exchange rate correct a payments imbalance. Shifts in imports and export of goods and services and short-term capital movements. Floating. Trade restriction, jobs and floating exchange rate. I have to fast. Speed up because time is so limited before Maghrib. And I know I'm so sorry that I am taking your time. During economic downturns, labor unions lobby for import restrictions to save jobs. Implementation of import restriction, this help one industry that you protect, will shift jobs from other industries to the protected industry. Has no significant impact on aggregate employment because leads to short-term employment gains in the protected industry. That short-term gain in that protected industry being offset by long-term employment losses in other industry. This is what we study in our chapter 4 whatever when we talk about tariff. Tariff is bad. Quota is even bad, even worse, not even bad. There's nothing in English like baddest. Bad, worst, bad, worst, not bad, better, baddest. No. Argument for floating rates. It responds quickly to changing supply and demand, clear the market of shortages or surpluses, simplified institutional arrangement, continuous adjustment in BOP, partially insulate home economy from external forces of volatility outside there, inflation outside there, nations have greater freedom to pursue policies that promote domestic balance. Against unregulated market may lead to wide fluctuations in currency values and discourage foreign trade and investment. Inflationary bias. Monetary authority may lack financial discipline to control inflation. Greater freedom for domestic financial management. This is why this is bad. Companies, because of free floating, the companies will have so many things they can do. They can have like a collusion to tamper with the operations of the market. Can do short buying, short selling. That will bring instability in the stock market. So that's the bad word, negative impacts of this. Greater domestic financial management, that they can manipulate the markets. Next, manage floating. Floating also but manage. Informal guidelines established by the IMF for coordination of exchange rate policies. Nations must intervene in exchange rate markets to avoid exchange rate alterations that would weaken the competitive position. Concerned that floats over time might lead to disorderly markets with erratic fluctuations. Nation can alter degree to which it intervenes in foreign market, exchange market. When US suspended gold convertibility in 1971 and completely in 1973, suspended that gold convertibility, then as I mentioned, Nixon allowed overvalued dollar to float. And the third said hope for free market adjustment will result in depreciation of the dollar. But there's two types of float: clean float, market solution. But foreign central banks refuse to permit free, clean float, which is based on supply and demand, market forces. And they intervene in exchange market because they're doing what? They're doing dirty float. These other countries, dirty floats. They interfere in the market. The forces of supply and demand are not allowed to play that role of equilibrating role. Floating rates. Some central banks will be having this leaning against the wind to avoid instability in the currency. So you lean against the wind. If you don't lean, if you don't protect from the wind, strong wind coming. Strong wind coming. If you don't do anything, your house will be fallen. So you must lean against the wind. What? Intervene to reduce short-term fluctuations in exchange rate without attempting to adhere to follow to any particular rate over the long term. You're just leaning against the wind to avoid fluctuations. Some countries having a target of exchange rate. Rather than leaning against the wind, they have a target, like the long-term particular rate. So that reflect long-term economic focuses that underlie exchange rate movement. So this manage floating rates in the short run and long run. Market intervention stabilizes exchange rates in short term and allows market forces to determine exchange rate in the long term. So on the right is short term. Under this system, central bank intervention is used to stabilize exchange rate in the short run. In the long run, market forces are permitted to determine the exchange rate. There was no picture of exchange rate in fixed exchange rate system. This slides skip one. Graph. Skip under the fixed. Yeah, there should be a graph here. So selling maybe coming up later. Let's check. Let's go to 14th edition. Also skipping that one graph. Yeah, it is coming later on. Oh yeah, no, really skip that graph. So what is the graph is showing, it's not here, so I'm just going to read, okay? To defend the official exchange rate of two okay, I will not mention any number. To defend the official exchange rate, the central bank must supply all of the nation's currency that is demanded at the official rate, and demand all the nation's currency that is supplied to it at the official rate. To prevent a dollar depreciation, not this graph, okay? I'm reading for graph from the textbook, which is not available in the slide. To prevent dollar depreciation, to prevent dollar from going down the value, central bank must purchase the excess supply of dollars. Central Bank of the United States must purchase the excess supply of dollars by using an equivalent amount of pounds. The story here, pound and dollar, which in the case of Malaysia, to prevent, if there is official exchange rate, of course Malaysia does not have an official exchange rate. Malaysia does not use a fixed exchange rate. When fixed exchange rate, there is an official exchange rate. Malaysia does not have that. So suppose Malaysia uses fixed exchange rate. To prevent ringgit from falling, Bank Negara Malaysia must buy ringgit, must create demand for ringgit, buying ringgit using the reserve, using US dollar to buy ringgit. That will avoid ringgit from falling, depreciate. On the other hand, to prevent dollar appreciation, the central bank must purchase the excess supply of pounds with an equivalent amount of dollars. In the case of Malaysia, suppose fixed exchange rate, to prevent appreciation, so that can maintain the exchange rate at the official exchange rate. To avoid appreciation, Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia must sell ringgit, and buy dollar or whatever foreign currency that's the key reserve currency that Malaysia use. Dollar, yen, pound, or some yuan also. Malaysia must sell ringgit, make ringgit available, means that supply the ringgit, must sell ringgit, supply the ringgit, so that ringgit is prevented from supply the ringgit by selling the ringgit through what? Selling the ringgit, buying the foreign currencies. Buy foreign currencies by selling the ringgit. It means that you supply the ringgit into the market so that the ringgit will not appreciate because more supply. You sell the ringgit. See, that's the exchange rate stabilization under the fixed exchange rate system. Because under the fixed exchange rate system, let's go back to 17th edition. Because when you use fixed exchange rate, you must have this exchange stabilization fund. From that fund, you buy ringgit, buy your own currency in order to prevent from your currency falling, to create demand for your currency, or to avoid appreciating, your currency appreciating. To avoid that, you must buy foreign currency by selling your own currency to buy foreign currency. Selling, increase the supply. Okay? The fund there. Fix. We're already in floating. Manage floating. Yes. Under this system, it's managed floating. Oh, yeah. They skip another slide of floating exchange rate, but we can, because easy to explain the floating is supply and demand. No need to do anything because floating exchange rate. But they go straight to next slide, which is manage floating exchange rate. Suppose occurs a permanent increase in US real income. So as a result, US residents demand more Swiss franc to buy chocolate from Switzerland. So this increase in demand for francs because to buy chocolate from Switzerland. From point A starting 0.5, which is 50 cents equal to 1 franc. You know, static view, move to point B. Because now increased demand for franc because American people have more income, they buy chocolate from Switzerland. So B. Now depreciate the dollar from 50 cents to 60 cents for every franc. Short term. Yeah. Okay. Wait. I'm explaining long term first. So this is long term. This supply and schedule for franc, and the current rate is 50 long term. So in the short term, the increase in the demand for franc will make dollar depreciate from 50 to 60 cents. So the central bank must intervene to stabilize the ringgit, the dollar, to go back to 50 cents for a dollar by, for example, by by intervention of monetary policy to make tight monetary policy, increase the interest rate. So by increasing the interest rate, there's going to be less demand for franc because the Swiss people will be wanting to invest in the US. When they invest in the US, okay, and interest rate this or fiscal policy is not, it's monetary policy will make more expensive to import, and as a result this in the short term can bring back the demand curve from left, so from right to the left. So that will make this in the long term movement that came about in the short term at point B can bring back to C in the long term. So this government, no, monetary authority intervention, central bank intervene. So central bank intervention is used to stabilize exchange rate in short run and long run. Market forces are permitted to determine exchange rate. So when we intervene here, the increase in interest rate in the United States means the decrease in the rates of interest rate in Switzerland, causing US demand for francs to causing the US demand for francs to move, to shift to the left, and bring back to stability of currency back to 0.5. Next. So to stabilize currency value, exchange value, so in the absence of international policy coordination, stabilizing a currency system, a currency's exchange value requires a central bank to initiate A, in the case of dollar appreciation, an expansionary monetary policy to offset appreciation, or B, depreciation, contractionary monetary policy to offset depreciation. How that works? Okay, take A. $1 to avoid $1 appreciated. So we're gonna use the expansionary monetary policy, lowering of interest rate, more money supply in the economy. So this, you see here, 180, $2, and without intervention, there's going to be to point B. This is dollar appreciation, must intervene to bring back the demand to the left. At the same time, supply to the left by having a expansionary monetary policy, which is to increase interest rate. When interest rate is increased, flows of funds coming, people want to invest in the US, you know, and US people less demanding of franc. People from Switzerland offer more, less. When this is less, what do you call this? Francs, and that's maintain the $2 exchange rate to tackle the depreciation of the dollar. Suppose initially at $2, now dollar depreciate to point B, which is 220. What monetary policy? Tight monetary policy, or in other words, contractionary monetary policy. Tight monetary policy, high interest rate policy. Increase the interest rate. Increase the interest rate will make investment in the US giving higher return. And people from other countries, including from Switzerland, will want to invest in the US. They demand more. Well, this is what I'm talking about. This is pound, dollars per pound, yeah, not Switzerland. Okay. This is pound. So increase interest rate and more investment coming. At the same time, the movement increase in the supply of pounds. So this, instead of being at point B, now restored to point C, which is $2. So contractionary monetary policy, higher interest rate, or tight monetary policy. Next, is exchange rate stabilization effective? May be useful when exchange rate is under speculative attack. May be helpful in coordinating private sector expectations. Research provides some support for short-term effectiveness, but does not support long-term intervention. Next system is crawling peg. Small, little by little by little, but frequent. Small but frequent changes in par value of currency to correct balance of payment disequilibrium. Process for exchange rate adjustment is continuous for all practical purposes, used by nations with high inflation rates. Combines flexibility of the floating rates with the stability of the fixed rates. Currency manipulation and wars. Purchase or sale of currency by fiscal or monetary authorities to influence value. In 2000s, US accused Japan, China, South Korea, Singapore, and other countries of keeping their exchange rate values low, artificial low, in order to boost their export. US has been doing the same thing. Is China a currency manipulator? US say China manipulates the yuan, make it low. Yuan significantly undervalued relative to dollar. US export to China more expensive. That harms US companies. Chinese export is so cheap. Huge trade surplus with the United States. Large amount of dollar reserves held by China. Is China a currency manipulator? Others say that there's little or no connection between yuan and health of United States manufacturing. They say not because of yuan, because of US. They or us in the US are not productive. Other analysts contend that China's currency intervention yields positive results for the United States economy, because the United States can focus on the high-tech and capital-intensive product. China focus on, specialized in the labor-intensive and and cheaper labor-intensive products. Major currency crises have been common in recent years. Now currency crisis, because of speculative attack, heavy selling, reason sizable loss of foreign reserve held by the central bank, because when they want to defend currency from falling, the central bank must use reserve to buy their own currency, to create demand for their own currency. That cannot be done for long, forever. So currency crisis can decrease growth of GDP by 6% or more. Currency crisis ends when selling pressure stops. Ways to end pressure include devaluation. This is the attempt by central bank. Devalue, establish new exchange rate, adoption of floating, imposition of restriction on ability to buy and sell foreign currency, use of loan, restoration of confidence. Crisis ending in devaluation is a currency crash. That's what happened during the East Asian financial crisis of 1997-98 that began with the crash of Thai baht that contagious spread to other countries' currency. Sources of currency speculators. Dr. Mahathir blamed on George Soros as speculators. Hot money. What is hot money? Come in and come out. Their alliance, the loyalty is where the return is high, where interest rate is high. Budget deficit is financed by inflation. When I say that, money follow where interest rate is high, because the higher interest rate there, they go there because higher returns there. They're not patriotic. Oh, must stay in Malaysia. No. Whereas wherever return higher, go there. So budget deficit is financed by inflation, printing more money, weak financial system, recently deregulated financial system, deregulated and uncontrolled with all many derivatives or weak economy, political factors, external factors, choice of exchange rate system. Yes, this is what happened in 1997. Speculative attack on Asian currencies. July, Thai baht abandoned back to US dollar. October 97, baht depreciated by 60%. Triggered wave of speculation against other South Asian currencies, spread to Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Philippines, Korea, Japan, spread. However, the 4 countries, Thailand, Indonesia, Korea, had to borrow from IMF. Malaysia did the Frank Sinatra way. I do my way. Dr. Mahathir did his way. Do not borrow from IMF, but embarked on a capital control. At that time, economists were, oh, you cannot do this. This is unconventional. In the end, but Malaysia successful came out from this 1997-98 East Asian financial crisis. So the economists began to look back at capital control. Dr. Mahathir did 2 things. Capital control, those that came in cannot go out. And those inside cannot go out. And pegging ringgit, 3 ringgit 80 cents for every dollar. That lasted for 2 years. And that happened on 2 September 1998. 31st August, the 2 men, August 31st, on Independence Day, Dataran Merdeka, the 2 men on stage, Dr. Mahathir and Anwar Ibrahim, which is current Prime Minister. I'm not siding on anyone, okay? I'm just telling the story. 31st of August, which is Malaysia's Independence Day, both leaders on stage of, the Merdeka, what I call this? 31st August. 1st August or 2nd August, Dr. Mahathir fire Anwar at that time. Though Datuk Seri, maybe not yet, maybe Datuk Anwar at that time. Dr. Mahathir fired Anwar. And then he started the capital control and pegging the ringgit. And that pegging the ringgit lasted for 2 years. So that was the story. That's all. I'm not saying anyone. Just, he fired Anwar, then he started the capital control. Thailand borrow from IMF. Indonesia borrow from IMF. Korea borrow from IMF. It is known as IMF crisis. And borrow money from IMF not without strings attached. You must do this. What? You must do restructuring of the economy. You must do restructuring the financial sector. You must do the reforms, everything. IMF told you must do this. One of the things that Malaysia did, non-performing loans. I forgot. Malaysia did, or these countries must do. I forgot. Okay, that was a long time ago. One of the things, the reason for economic crisis is non-performing loan. There was a definition at that time. Well, in Malaysia, okay, Malaysia. This is to bring more discipline in the banking sector, more discipline. Used to be, if you don't pay your loans consecutively, only after 6 months, your loan will be considered as non-performing. To bring that more discipline, change that definition, 3 months. If you don't pay your loan 3 months consecutively, you are considered non-performer in loan payment. So non-performing loan change from 6 months to 3 months. Korea must restructure the companies, the loans, everything. So end up, well, no more Daewoo. To prevent Kia from being owned, I used to drive a Daewoo car, I used to drive. Hyundai bought Kia. Now, Kia belongs to Hyundai. Otherwise, could be bought by American companies. Renault bought Daewoo. Yeah. So that's what happened. Many companies closed. So there was a IMF crisis. The Korean people are very patriotic. The ladies, would come to the bank, give gold, bracelet, give to help the nation pay the IMF loan. Okay. Some economists argue abandoning fixed exchange rate is not the long-term interest. So some economists argue that better, in this case, better fixed interest rate. See, problem now because of floating. But fixed interest rate has a major problem. Speculators will speculate the exchange rate, and if it's fixed, it cannot adjust easily, so exposed to speculators. So capital control. Government impose barriers to foreign savers investing in domestic assets. To domestic savers, government directly pass direct control. Government allocate foreign exchange. Government sets price. Time. Advantage enables government to influence the payment. Enables government to encourage and discourage certain transactions. Gives domestic monetary and fiscal policy greater freedom. Disadvantage: capital outflows may further increase after control, result in evasion. People, if we provide government's official false sense of security, and controls on capital inflows receive more support after Dr. Mahathir was successful. If speculative capital cannot enter the country, it cannot suddenly leave and create crisis, but problematic can prevent funds that would be used to finance productive investment from entering are seldom effective because private sector finds ways to evade them. Should be taxed. A tax would increase cost to transaction, discourage massive response to money changes, dampen volatility. Drawbacks: we do not know how much volatility is excessive, and rational tax could impose burden on countries and difficult to implement. Currency board. Next is a system. Some countries, very few in fact, using the currency board. Monetary authority that issue notes and coin convertible into foreign anchor currency at fixed exchange rate can operate in place of central bank or as a parallel along central bank. Takes over role of central bank. Has no discretionary powers. Sole function to exchange notes. Does not lend to the government. Result from stipulation that backing of domestic currency must be 100%. An autopilot when anchor currency flows, bond issues more domestic currency. When anchor currency flows out, when dollar flows out, interest rate will go up. When anchor currency like dollar come in, bond will issue more domestic currency, so interest rate will fall. Benefits of currency board: making nations' currency and exchange rate regime more rule-bound and predictable, placing under upper bound of nations-based money supply, arresting inflation that will tackle the inflation from going up, forcing government to restrict borrowing to what foreign and domestic lenders, engendering gender together, not danger, engendering confidence, bring confidence, creating confidence. Okay. Time. Objection to currency board: prevent country from pursuing our discretionary or independent monetary policy. No, not independent. Render countries susceptible, exposed to financial panics. Create colonial relationship with anchor currency. Example of Argentina, colonial relationship with, dependent on dollar. Dollarization: when residents of foreign currency use dollar alongside or instead of their own currency, use dollar. Benefits: credibility, avoids capital outflows, decreased transaction costs, lower rate of inflation, greater openness, balance of payment crisis minimized. Effects: country must be treated like one of the states of United States. Follow very much what happened by what the Federal Reserve is doing. However, Federal Reserve is not the lender of last resort of this country, because this country is not part of the United States. So there's no seigniorage from its monetary system. So seigniorage is the income they make. So they're supposed to get income by the holding of a foreign currency. When they hold foreign currency, they get income of that interest income from that currency, but they don't have it, so no seigniorage of the income. States expenditure not affected, can establish own trade policies, can not print more domestic currency, must exercise caution in spending. Effects of dollar: for each dollar sent abroad, Americans dollar sent abroad, other countries using dollar, Americans enjoy one-time increase in the amounts of goods and services they can consume. US gets an interest-free loan from foreign countries because they're using dollar, paying in dollar, receiving in dollar. Might hinder formulation and execution of monetary policy by Federal Reserve. Could result in more pressure on Federal Reserve to conduct policy according to the foreign country's interest, which is not really, because US is so powerful. Finished. And last chapter, I must finish it finally. So what we studied from that chapter: types of exchange rate system and the role of intervention to avoid currency instability. Now we want to study, not this one. Last chapter. finally, chapter 15. Macroeconomic policy in an open economy. Economic objective of nation, policy instrument, aggregate demand supply, brief review, monetary policy, fiscal policy in closed economy first, and in open economy, and macroeconomic stability and current account, policy agreement, conflict, inflation, and employment, international policy coordination. So, in a country, there are 3 objectives. But the main one, the most important, is internal balance. Internal balance, which is to gain full employment. When we mean full employment, does not mean no or zero unemployment. 2% unemployment already considered full employment. 2% unemployment. So internal balance to achieve full employment and low inflation. Listen to me. Internal balance, 2 things. Full employment plus low inflation. I'm not saying no inflation, low inflation, controllable inflation. Employment, full employment, and low inflation. That's internal balance. External balance is balance in trade, in current account balance. External balance, especially trade. We cannot have much huge trade deficit. So we to achieve that external balance. And then overall balance. When the internal balance and external balance are achieved, they can achieve overall balance. So long-term economic growth and other objectives also long-term economic growth. You want to invest in productive sector, and also you have the social objectives. Many times social objectives can be conflicting from the economic objectives. What is social objective? To attain greater distribution of income in the country. Not, we don't want too many rich, very few rich people, but very many poor. That's high income, there's a highly, what I call this, income distribution which is not balanced. Too many, many poor people, but very few rich people control all the income. So we have that objective also, to have equitable distribution of national income. But these are the main internal balance. That can be conflict in objectives. So internal balance, full employment, no inflation, low inflation. In practice, no inflation, no, not zero. Low inflation in practice, because 1%, 2% is considered also already no inflation, very low. External balance, neither deficit nor surplus in current account. But deficit a problem? Not necessarily. If deficit is to finance productive investment, okay. But however, cannot have high, very large deficit, because that will affect in the reserve of the central bank. Is mentioned by how many, the reserve is equivalent to what? Equivalent to how many retained imports. The reserve is 3 months retained imports. That's not stable. 6 months, okay. If the reserve is 9 months, that reserve by central bank equivalent to paying 9 months of retained imports, okay. So overall balance, combination of internal and external balance. There is policy instrument. There are two types of policy instrument: expenditure changing and expenditure switching. Spending, switching, spending, switching. What is, I say spending? Changing, switching, changing, switching, changing, switching. Expenditure changing. To change the level of total spending. To change level of total spending. The demand on goods and services. Using what? Fiscal and monetary policy. Changes the government spending, fiscal, G and T. This is responsibility of the government. Whereas monetary policy, responsibility of the central bank. Malaysia and many countries, managed countries like Malaysia, there is a independence of central bank from the government. You must not think that central bank, Bank Negara Malaysia, is part of the government. No. Bank Negara Malaysia is not part of the government. Prime Minister cannot, tell you, Governor of Bank Negara, do this, do that. Cannot. Minister of Finance cannot tell. Cannot call. Okay, you must do it. But they can, talk and discuss, but cannot force. Because independence of central bank from the government. That's why monetary policy belongs to central bank. So that's expenditure changing and expenditure switching. Spending, I said, expenditure changing to change total spending. Switching to switch, to move the direction of the demand. That's switch from A to B, switch. Modify direction of demand between A, export, or B, import. So use policy that shift demand between domestic output or imports. Modify. So there's switching. If you have trade deficit, you must switch. Less import, more of the, domestic output, consumption. So under fixed exchange rate, nation with trade deficit could devalue currency to increase export competitiveness. Devalue, so your product will be cheaper, become competitive. Under managed floating exchange rate, nation with trade deficit could depreciate currency by using it to purchase other currencies. So, or direct control. This belongs to the government, tariffs. MITI, Ministry of International Trade and Industry, decide the tariff. This one belongs to the government, not to central bank. Tariff. Government restriction market, no time. There's control particular items in current account, restrain capital outflows, stimulate capital outflows. Example tariff. Government restriction on market economy, control particular items in current account, restrain capital. Government. Dr. Mahathir did it. So now we study this. The concept of equilibrium is based on the intersection of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. That's all. Level aggregate demand, purchase aggregate demand. Okay, nothing else. So the economy is equilibrium when aggregate demand intersect with aggregate supply. This means the economic price level and the output for an economy. So aggregate supply and aggregate demand. So market equilibrium is aggregate supply equals aggregate demand here. So changes, okay, all these changes to shift because of this consumption, resources, business price. Okay. Now we study first monetary and fiscal policy in a closed economy. That we want to study what will we use in the open economy? To straight to the point, in an open economy, which one? Is it the monetary policy or fiscal policy will be more effective? Let me repeat. Which one? Monetary policy or fiscal policy? You must know monetary, interest rate, money supply. Fiscal policy, taxes, government, tax. Fiscal policy. So which one? In an open economy, the answer depends on that country uses what. That country, does it use the fixed or floating system? Okay, let me repeat. We want to answer what policy. Is it monetary or fiscal policy? Which one will be effective in an open economy? Now, closed economy, just we want to study. In an open economy, which one is more effective? Monetary or fiscal? The answer depends on the system, the exchange rate system used by that country. Whether that country using fixed exchange rate system or whether that country using floating exchange rate system. Fixed or floating? The answer depends on that. Straight to the point. In an open economy, if that country uses fixed exchange rate, fiscal policy will be effective in open economy. If that country uses floating, monetary policy is more effective in an open economy. So let's go. This first, closed economy, government high, government must increase aggregate demand through expansion monetary policy, fiscal policy. If aggregate output is low and there's unemployment, more room for employment. The output is low, unemployment is low, unemployment. Government may increase aggregate demand through expansionary monetary policy or expansionary fiscal policy. This will lead to increase in domestic consumption because expansionary monetary policy is more money in the market. Lower interest rate. When more money interest rate, when there is more money in the economy, more money, interest rate will go down. When interest rate will go down, because more money supply in the economy. Is there a graph here? No graph? No graph. So I explain. This is output is low. So we'll use expansionary monetary policy. When money supply increase, interest rate will go down. Borrowing is cheaper. When borrowing is cheaper, we can start business, can open factories, the economy will pick up again. Or fiscal policy, expansionary fiscal policy, lower tax, reduce income tax, reduce whatever tax, so that people have more disposable income to consume or to invest, to open factories, to start business, whatever. So this lead to increase of investment, government spending, resulting increase in real GDP. Next, that was in closed economy. Clear. If on the other hand, inflation high, to control inflation, the government must do this, reduce level of aggregate demand to contain inflation. Must reduce aggregate demand of real output by engaging through contractionary monetary or fiscal policy. So this upward pressure in prices is softened and inflation will moderate. What is contractionary monetary policy? Reduce money supply in the economy. When money supply is reduced, contractionary, okay, money supply reduced, little money available, interest rate will go up. Interest rate will go up, borrowing become more expensive. The aggregate demand can be softened, can be tamed, can be made slower, so can control inflation. Or contractionary fiscal policy, increase taxes, when taxes is increased, lower disposable income, less money for me to consume, less money for me to start a business, less money to open factory and so on. So the GDP will be maintained and reduced. So control inflation. That's closed economy, but in reality, many countries are not closed, open economy. Now, open economy. Expansionary monetary or fiscal policy in a closed economy. This, we talk about this in the graph we just now. Where's that graph? Yeah. We've just spoken. Oh. Here. In a closed economy, straightforward. In order to increase GDP to the right, you must embark on expansionary monetary or fiscal policy to increase GDP. Expansionary monetary policy. More money supply. Interest rate is lower. That help people to borrow money, borrow from the bank to start business. So everyone is doing business, you know. Economy pick up, move to the right, aggregate demand. That's expansionary monetary policy. Closed economy. Now we want to discuss in an open economy. Notice, in a closed economy, just one movement. Whereas in open economy, there are two movements. The initial response and the secondary response. This is initial and secondary response. If this initial and secondary response moves the same direction, that policy will be effective. If there's a conflict between initial response going to the right, but the secondary response going to the left, that policy will not be effective. Okay? Because conflicting with each other. And this conflict comes in the form of trade, impacts on the trade, and flows of investment. So that's why trade flows are connected to all this. First part of our course connected to second part of our course. Now let's go. I have about 3 minutes. Very critical. I already gone to the conclusion to save the time. Now let's go to the details of it. Open economy. Close. Now open. Expansionary monetary or fiscal policy in closed economy, clear. In closed economy just now, clear. Initial effect is increase in the aggregate demand, you know. But in an open economy, it has the secondary effects. The second effect may increase or decrease in aggregate demand by changing the net export. See, net export. That's why first part is connected. You see now, the trade component comes in back into our discussion, changing the net export and other determinants of aggregate demand. What are the determinants? Income and so on, inflation. So if initial and secondary effects are both same same way, increase aggregate demand, strengthen the effect of expansionary policy. Don't mention yet. Expansionary policy. If initial effect and have a conflict, go back. So weaken the. So this is So, in our open economy, A just now finished. Closed economy. A there. This B. Now B. Expansionary monetary policy or fiscal policy in an open economy. If, number one, the policy's initial and secondary effects reinforce each other, yes, this is effective. This one, second one, policy initial and secondary conflict each other, this is weakened. So the answer is where? So give me 2 minutes. Current slide. So if I have a fiscal monetary policy under fixed exchange rate, the fixed is done, finished. That's fixed, okay? Done. Just done, okay. Extraordinary is fixed, okay? Extraordinary fiscal policy more successful and extraordinary monetary policy less successful in simulating economy in open economy. Okay, in open economy than in closed economy. Expansionary fiscal, this is the result that we will summarize here. In a open economy compared with closed economy. So finish closed economy, now open economy, the result is here. So into Maghrib, I will finish this in 2 minutes. Go back to what I said. In an open economy, which one is more effective? Finish closed economy. An open economy, which one is more effective? Monetary or fiscal? Expansionary monetary policy or expansionary fiscal policy? Which one is more effective? The answer depends on which system that country uses. Is it fixed or floating? Now we concerned with this. Look at this. The answer is here. Fixed or floating. In a fixed exchange rate system, the country use that fixed. It is fiscal policy will be effective. Remember, fixed exchange rate, fiscal policy, because same movement. Export. That second movement is the export sector. Import and export. Same movement. Export more. So, aggregate demand will increase. Fiscal policy. If exchange rate is fixed. If that country using floating exchange rate, this is both in open economy, okay? We finish closed economy. Open economy. Again, open economy. Which currency they use? Open economy, okay? Floating or fixed? In a fixed, fiscal policy. In a floating, monetary policy. Because the bank, central bank, has the independence of setting the macroeconomic policy, especially the monetary policy, under the purview, under the control, and it's a job of central bank, monetary policy. So in a floating exchange rate, monetary policy will be effective. Because initial effect, increase aggregate demand, fiscal policy in a fixed, okay? Aggregate demand increase. Secondary effect also increase in aggregate demand. Budget deficit raises interest rate, leading to increased demand for domestic currency. In foreign currency market, to maintain fixed exchange rate, central bank buys foreign currency with domestic currency and increase domestic market supply and loadable, causing aggregate demand to rise further. Monetary policy is weakened under fixed exchange rate because initial effect higher aggregate demand, money supply increase, domestic fall, leading to increased consumption and investment. So secondary effect, will be decreasing demand for domestic currency due to low interest rate. So, to maintain a fixed exchange rate, authorities purchase domestic currency with foreign currency, causing decrease in money supply. So, supply of loanable loans decrease, that cause aggregate demand to move to the left. Conflict. So in an open economy, if our fiscal monetary policy under floating exchange rate, that was fixed, under fixed, you must buy and sell to maintain, because it's fixed under the official exchange rate. That's fixed. In the floating, easy floating monetary policy. Monetary policy is strengthened under floating exchange rate because initial effect increase in aggregate demand, reduction of monthly interest rate, increase in consumption and investment, cheaper to make loan, consume more, invest more. Secondary effects is that increase in aggregate demand also, same way. So domestic currency depreciate, that leads to increase in export. See the beauty of our course. That's a connection. First part, export and import trade policy, and the second part, monetary and financial policies. So increase domestic currency depreciate leads to increase in export, decrease in import, so improvement in current account. So monetary policy is strengthened under floating exchange rate. Continue. Fiscal policy is weakened under floating exchange rate because initial effect increase in demand, but going back to the left. Secondary effect is that decrease in demand because the budget deficit, high interest rate, increased demand for domestic currency, and domestic currency appreciate, leading to worsening current account. When domestic currency appreciate, remember the trade sector, export more expensive. So, import cheaper. So, current deficit will increase, causing the aggregate demand to fall. Because so, can a single policy restore overall balance? Assume recession. Okay, two cases we study here. A country with deficit, both cases, current account deficit. Very important. That's why we concern about current account, not overall. Current account, the first part of BOP. Both cases, current account deficit. Next case also current account deficit. But this one, current account deficit and recession. Which one to use? When there's a recession and floating exchange rate, expansionary monetary policy to combat recession leads to currency depreciation. Rise in export, fall in imports, reduce current account deficit. Thus, as a result, single economic policy of in the floating, this is floating, okay, monetary policy, expansionary monetary policy, more supply, money supply, works in the case of to take out the economy from recession while having current account deficit and recession. Expansionary monetary policy will work because rise of export as a result of the currency depreciation. When you have expansionary monetary policy, so this leads to currency depreciation and export sector there increase of export. Thus it works. However, there's recession and current account deficit. In the case of inflation, not single, need other measures, other policy. Inflation and current account deficit. This one, current account deficit and recession. This is inflation. To combat inflation, contractionary monetary policy to combat inflation increases domestic interest rate. You increase the domestic interest rate and there's currency appreciation. Interest rate went up. People want to flows to take benefit of currency interest rate. So that inflow of money investment will demand for your currency. That demand increase for your currency will make currency appreciate. So fall in export, rise in import. So thus there is policy conflict. Monetary policy or fiscal policy alone will not restore both internal and external balance. So alone cannot. If you have monetary policy expansionary, tight monetary policy to control inflation, you must also tight. Okay, to control inflation, you must have tight monetary policy. You must have also together supplemented by tight fiscal policy. Cannot one policy alone cannot achieve. Both must be there. So as soon as economy advances to full employment, produce price and unchanged to full employment, there is a demand full inflation. Once national production is achieved for the increase of demand full price, when nation suffers for both inflation and employment, the second case, internal balance cannot be achieved by manipulating aggregate demand. To increase inflation, to decrease inflation, aggregate demand must be reduced. To decrease unemployment, aggregate demand must be increased. There's a complete there. So overall balance, three separate targets: current account, wage. So you may need wage and price control in order to combat inflation. You must control price from going up. You know, that's why control price of sugar, control price of eggs, maybe. Economic relations among nation, conflict, independence, and political this international economic coordination attempt to modify national monetary policy. They made previously Plaza Accord, G5. Now we have G7. They met during COVID-19 crisis. They met during 2008 economic recession. So during COVID-19 crisis, they coordinate, you know, to have low inflation, low interest rate in all countries, so that economy can grow with low inflation. During now facing today nowadays inflation. So they must negotiate, must coordinate to increase interest rate. So United States already increased interest rate. Malaysia increased interest rate. Korea already increased interest rate. To control inflation. The world today is facing inflation, and this year not only deflation because of breakdown of supply during COVID-19 lockdown. Now 2023 projected to be a year of decline economic growth in the world. 1.9% only. Slowing of the global economy, and maybe can go into recession this year, maybe. So between the conflict, independence, integration. So this among nations, national government, internationally. So in theory, some nations give high priority to this, and some nations have stronger legislators. Party pendulums different. So countries have different priorities. So that's why coordination in theory
sorry,
nice,
doctor.
but there's conflict. What we finish? This is no more. Finish. Okay, let me finish. Few more slides and we're done. This.
Sorry, doctor. Sorry for disturbing you.
Yes.
Can we have some break?
No. Finish now.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, finish. This is not important anymore. This is just I make sure that I wanna cover. Finish. So let me finish. Oh. So this policy connection in theory, something okay. There's conflict. One nation may experience economic recession, other may experience rapid inflation. Let me tell you, this part is not important, but I want to make sure I touch. The previous part is important. Which one? Which policy? This one is important. This one, not this one. But I want to make sure I cover. So, international economic policy coordination is difficult. Attempt to, difficult because, well, they do it because in recognition of international economic interdependence, but in reality, it's difficult. One nation may experience recession, another one rapid inflation. How can you? So, G5 1985, the Plaza Accord. I mentioned Plaza Accord 1985. US dollar and devalue. Japanese yen, went up. And 1986 dollar, a group of G5, 97 intervention, macroeconomic adjustment, and 2000. Does it work? 2000 more difficult to coordinate. Rise of independent central banks makes coordination more difficult. Additionally, huge growth of global financial market. The touch of the button, you can send money, you can transfer. So less effective. G7 and finish. And that's it. Thank you very much. So the point from that, the last part is, yes, in theory, because of interdependence of nations in the global economy, the G7 meet together and try to coordinate policy, usually about about interest rate. Yeah, but in reality, in theory, it's not easy to coordinate. So that's the point. So we finished, and okay, thank you for coming. I'm sorry I have to finish this even though it's already Maghrib time, because I don't want to prolong your, have to continue after this. I want to make you free to have dinner, to do whatever you want to do tonight. So finish, done. Thank you very much. So I'm sorry about that. I did not accept your suggestion, because now we can focus on what we must do now, Maghrib prayer. And no more, because when the suggestion came to me, actually I'm just trying to finish the syllabus only. Those parts are not important. The there is coordination among countries, of major countries, coordination of policies, macroeconomic policies. They're trying to coordinate, especially in terms of interest rate of central banks. Not so much fiscal policy, because fiscal policy, yes, they should coordinate also. Fiscal policy was stable, but the main issue of global economy is to have stable currency, to have low inflation, cannot have unstable currency. That's number one. Cannot have unstable currencies in the world, especially dollar and other main currencies. Cannot be unstable, must be stable, so that trade will not disrupted, so that international trade and investment flow will not be disrupted. That's why maintain stability, that requires coordination in exchange rate, money supply. Well, when we talk about money supply, we talk about interest rate. So,
Hey. Sorry.
but in reality, it's difficult. So many countries, each country has their own priority. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
So I'm sorry for whatever I said tonight. And I'm also sorry for the rest of the lectures. If I say something wrong that hurts your feeling, please forgive me. Okay. Now I have to stop. Please make sure everyone sign. So I can just leave this on. I go pray Maghrib. Thank you very much and forgive me for whatever wrongdoing I do. And I will explain the format of exam in our Telegram. And what cover and what to cover, what to read and so on. Thank you. Maghrib time.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yep, you're welcome. So I leave it on.
Thank you, Doctor.
So everyone go
Thank
Maghrib.
you, Doctor.